There are phases in life when you feel as though you're climbing a mountain wrapped in fog. No crowds cheering, no voices encouraging, no witness to your struggle. Just you, your breath, your doubts, your resilience. You keep walking. You keep honoring the promise you made to your future self, even though every step feels unseen by the world. You look around, and the silence is loud. No one says, "I'm proud of you." No one sees the nights you cried quietly. No one hears the invisible battles you fought, and no one notices the strength it took just to get out of bed. And in that silence, you whisper to yourself, "Is it worth it when no one witnesses it?" But the Millionaire Rabbi teaches something profound. It is precisely in that silence where a different kind of strength begins to form. A strength that does not depend on applause. A strength that does not need validation. A strength that grows from the inside out. The Rabbi often says, every spiritual rebirth begins with a dissolution. Before the new you emerges, the old layers must fall away. Whenever life removes your support system, it is not punishment. It is preparation. It is a sign the soul is about to enter a stage where you no longer borrow strength from others. You generate it yourself. In today's journey, we walk through the 7 steps of rising, even when no one is there to lift you. Because when you finally stop waiting for someone else to save you, you discover a truth that changes everything. Everything you searched for outside, strength, love, peace, was always inside, waiting patiently for you to awaken it. And when that awakening begins, you don't rise, you ascend. You begin to walk with your own light. 1. Loneliness, the silent teacher of strength. There are moments when the world slowly distances itself from you. The conversations that once energized you now feel empty. People who used to feel close now feel distant. Externally, nothing changes, but internally, everything shifts. Your job looks the same. Your friendships look the same. Your routines look the same. Yet something in your soul whispers, this chapter is ending. Most people fear this phase because they confuse loneliness with abandonment. But to the Millionaire Rabbi, this is not abandonment. This is initiation. In Hebrew mysticism, it is called the night sea journey, the moment the soul enters the quiet darkness where transformation begins. This loneliness the Rabbi speaks of is not about being physically alone in an empty room. It is the feeling that the world's language no longer matches your inner truth. You smile, but the smile no longer reaches your spirit. You speak, but your words feel borrowed. You move, but you feel detached. This is the moment the soul begins separating from the persona, the mask you once wore to fit into a world you have now outgrown. When you whisper, "No one understands me," the Rabbi responds, "Good. That means you are closer to your real self." He teaches that true maturity begins the moment you stop running from your own company. Not when someone listens to you, but when the world becomes silent enough for you to finally hear yourself. Loneliness is not a punishment. Loneliness is a cleansing. It strips away distractions, illusions, attachments, and identities you clung to simply because they were familiar. Most people cannot sit with themselves. So they numb the silence with noise, work, social media, relationships, distractions, constant activity. But the more you avoid the quiet, the louder your inner emptiness becomes. Loneliness doesn't arrive to hurt you. It arrives to deepen you, to rebuild your foundation from the inside outward, to make you strong precisely where you were once weak. The Rabbi once shared a story of a woman he counseled after her divorce. She had always been surrounded by people, friends, colleagues, her partner. But when her life collapsed, the sudden quiet terrified her. The nights felt endless. The silence felt like an enemy. But instead of filling the void with noise, she dared to stay with herself. At first, she could only sit in silence for 5 minutes. Later, 10, then an hour. Then she began cooking for herself, speaking kindly to herself, writing her thoughts, facing the wounds she had avoided for years. Months later, she told the Rabbi, "The silence is no longer threatening. It's where I finally hear myself." The Rabbi smiled and said, That is the meeting with your true self. When no one is there to catch you, you grow roots. When no one pushes you, you grow discipline. When no one believes in you, you learn to believe in yourself. Loneliness becomes the gym of your soul, the place where your character is strengthened through quiet, unseen, consistent resilience. Think of the oak tree in winter. While other trees shed their leaves in fear of the cold, the oak stands firm, alone, unchanging. It looks barren, stripped, lifeless. But beneath the frozen ground, its roots dig deeper. It is preparing for a stronger spring. Humans are no different. Your lonely season is your winter. But if you remain patient, your roots will deepen and your spring will come. The Rabbi teaches the ancient truth. In every chaos, there is a hidden order. If you are standing in the darkness of loneliness, do not fear. It is not a sign of weakness. It is confirmation that you are leaving the old path and preparing for the new one, because for a soul to be reborn, it must first dissolve. And only when the world becomes silent can you hear the inner voice whisper, "Rise. No one is coming to lift you up." But that is not a tragedy. It is a blessing, because in that moment, real strength is born. Loneliness will carve resilience into your spirit, and every night you survive becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity. If you feel this stage in your heart right now, write in the comments, "I'm here." As a declaration that even if no one stands beside you, you choose to stand with yourself. 2. Stop seeking emotional comfort from others. Once you learn to stand in solitude, a deeper revelation arrives. The exhaustion you feel isn't caused by loneliness. It is caused by expecting someone else to fill it. The Millionaire Rabbi often teaches, loneliness isn't the pain of being alone. Loneliness is the pain of being disconnected from yourself. The moment you expect others to regulate your emotions, to reassure you, validate you, calm your fears, erase your insecurities, you give them power over your life. But emotional dependence is not love. It is fear wearing the mask of connection. The Rabbi tells stories of people who panic when someone stops replying to their messages or withdraws affection. Their anxiety spikes, not because of the other person, but because they fear disappearing without external validation. That fear is not coming from the present. It is coming from the past, from moments in childhood when emotions were dismissed, ignored, or shamed. But the Rabbi teaches a healing truth. Emotional dependence is the shadow of a neglected inner child. The next stage of rising is emotional independence, the ability to sit with your emotions without running toward another person to soothe them, to place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I'm here for you." This is where your true self begins to strengthen. Not by being rescued, but by becoming your own refuge. Someone who can comfort themselves does not need constant praise to feel valuable. They do not collapse when someone withdraws. They do not panic in moments of silence. They can sit alone in a cafe, sipping coffee, feeling full, not because life is perfect, but because they have learned to belong to themselves. This is freedom. Not the freedom from love, but the freedom from fear. 3. Stop complaining. The language of the victim ego. After solitude teaches you strength and emotional independence teaches you stability, a subtler challenge emerges, one that most people overlook because it hides inside ordinary conversations, sighs, complaints, and silent resentments. The Millionaire Rabbi calls it the language of the victim ego. Complaining is how the ego keeps you small. It is the voice that whispers, "Life is unfair. People don't appreciate me. No one helps me. I deserve better." It feels justified, even comforting, but every complaint reinforces a painful lie. I am powerless. The Rabbi teaches, every complaint is borrowed strength that weakens the soul. When you complain, you surrender control. You claim you cannot act because circumstances are against you, and in doing so, you avoid responsibility. Why? Because responsibility is heavy. Complaints are light. They ask nothing of you. But here is the truth the Rabbi teaches with unwavering clarity. Complaining changes nothing except the belief that you have no power. When you complain, you do not move forward. You stay frozen. You repeat the same story to different people, in different settings, with different words. But the plot never changes. Your unconscious becomes your master. The rabbi often reminds his students, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it destiny. Complaining is not a release, it is a trap. It keeps you tied to the story you say you want to escape. When you complain, you block action. When you act, you silence complaint. The rabbi uses a powerful metaphor. Life is like a river. You can curse the current, or you can learn to swim. A stone at the bottom of the river is tossed, struck, and shaped by the flow. At first, it seems destructive, but over time the stone becomes polished, smooth, refined, beautiful. The flow did not break it. The flow perfected it. Life is the same. Every challenge is a current designed to shape you. Complaining fights the current. Courage learns from it. The rabbi once spoke to a woman who had been betrayed by her closest friends. For 6 months she retold the story, again and again, to anyone who would listen, and each time her anger grew, her loneliness deepened, her spirit weakened. One day she asked the rabbi, "Why can't I move on?" He asked her, "If no one were listening to your complaints, would you still tell the story?" She thought deeply, then whispered, "No." That was the beginning of her healing. The moment you stop complaining, you reclaim power. You begin asking not, "Why me?" but, "What now?" The rabbi teaches, strong souls are not those who feel no pain. Strong souls are those who stop feeding the pain. You can feel sadness, grief, disappointment, but instead of retelling your wounds, you transform them into wisdom. Every time you stop complaining and take one small action, you announce to the universe, I am no longer a victim, I am becoming. This shift is the foundation of the next level of Rising 4. Become your own source of validation. Once you stop complaining and begin acting, a painful silence appears, the silence of being unseen. This is the moment when you work hard, grow, heal, push, evolve, and no one notices. No good job, no, I'm proud of you, no applause, no recognition. And this is where many people give up, not because they fear failure, but because they fear invisibility. But the Millionaire Rabbi teaches, a soul does not grow in spotlight, it grows in stillness. When the world is quiet, your ego panics. It wants praise, attention, approval. It wants to be noticed for the effort. But true transformation begins when you detach from the need to be seen. The rabbi shares the story of Cassandra from Greek mythology. A woman gifted with prophecy, cursed so that no one believed her visions. She knew the truth, saw the warnings, understood what others refused to see, and yet no one listened. But she did not abandon her truth. Her story is symbolic for every soul walking a self-discovery path. Sometimes the world won't recognize your truth, but your job is not to be believed. Your job is to stay loyal to your soul. The rabbi tells us, it is better to be true without praise than praised for who you are not. I once heard the rabbi counsel a woman who worked tirelessly in her company. She stayed late, took on extra tasks, solved problems quietly. But when awards were given, her boss celebrated others. I felt invisible, she said, but instead of collapsing, she made a powerful decision. I will stop working to be seen. I will start working to see myself. Every time she completed a task, she privately acknowledged her effort. She treated herself to small rewards: coffee, a walk, a book. She kept a journal of her daily wins, and one day she said, external validation lasts for seconds, self-validation lasts for days. This is the transition from ego to self, from dependence to autonomy. The rabbi teaches, if you seek your value in the eyes of others, you will forever be their prisoner. External validation is fragile. People get distracted. They forget. They overlook. They project their own insecurities. But when you validate yourself, you build a foundation no one can shake. People who validate themselves don't collapse when others ignore them. Don't chase attention. Don't need applause to continue. Don't fear the silence. Don't bend their truth for approval because they live from a deeper, steadier center. Self-validation is not arrogance. It is self-respect. It is emotional maturity. It is a sign that you have met your soul and accepted all its contradictions. And something miraculous happens at this stage. You begin to shine from within, not with loudness, but with quiet presence. Not with performance, but with integrity. Others can feel your steadiness, even if they never say a word. Your energy changes. Your posture changes. Your silence becomes powerful. And that is why the Rabbi teaches, those who need applause are loud. Those who know themselves are luminous. If you feel the shift into self-validation, if you are learning to stand without applause, write in the comments, I rise quietly. 5. Rise quickly, turn failure into fire. After mastering self-validation, life introduces a new teacher, failure, especially the kind that comes when no one is there to help you back up. Failure is not the opposite of progress. It is the fuel of growth. It is the moment you stumble on the very path you thought you had mastered. You lose control. You make mistakes. You fall into old patterns, you get embarrassed. You feel weak. And because no one sees your silent victories, no one sees your silent breakdowns either. But the Millionaire Rabbi teaches, failure is a mirror reflecting what still needs healing. Every fall is a revelation. It exposes the parts of you not yet integrated. The ego still seeking approval, the wounds still reactive, the fears still controlling you. Failure is not meant to break you. It is meant to show you what parts of you are still unfinished. The rabbi once counseled a woman who lost her business due to betrayal. For months, she lived in fear, guilt, and regret. She blamed herself. She blamed life. She blamed the world. But one day, her therapist asked, if this is not the end, what is it teaching you? She fell silent, then whispered, I ignored my intuition. That realization became the beginning of her rebirth. She rebuilt her company, smaller, wiser, stronger. She said, I am no longer afraid to fall. Every fall makes me more honest with myself. Failure doesn't weaken you. It unmasks you. It burns away illusions. It brings you closer to your truth. When you rise without applause, without help, without comfort, you expand in ways you never imagined. The rabbi teaches, falling is not the problem, staying fallen is. Every time you rise again without support, you grow a new spiritual muscle. Resilience, wisdom, intuition, humility, courage. That is how failure becomes fire. 6. Act without relying on inspiration. Will over emotion. After you learn to rise from failure, a new and deeper lesson appears. One that separates dreamers from doers, seekers from achievers, and children from spiritual adults. The Millionaire Rabbi teaches, inspiration is a visitor, will is a resident. Most people move only when they feel motivated, excited, inspired, validated, supported, or uplifted. They wait for a feeling to tell them, now is the perfect time. But feelings are seasonal. They shift with weather, fatigue, hormones, moods, conversations, and small disappointments. If you depend on inspiration to act, your life will be full of beginnings but empty of mastery. The rabbi explains, motivation comes from the ego. Discipline comes from the soul. There will be mornings when you wake up tired, afternoons when you feel lost, evenings when you question your purpose, days when the fog feels thicker than ever. But if you act even on those days, you awaken your deepest power, the will to continue. The rabbi calls this Coach Haratzon, the power of will, a holy force capable of reorganizing your entire inner world. Because every time you act without inspiration, you strengthen the bridge between your small self and your higher purpose. The rabbi once told the story of a single mother, exhausted from working 2 jobs. She woke each day at 5 a.m., not out of motivation but necessity. She had a dream of opening a bakery but felt too drained to pursue it. One night, her son asked, Mom, Why did you stop dreaming? Those words awakened something in her. Not excitement, not passion, but responsibility. From that day forward, she woke up 15 minutes earlier. Just 15 minutes. She read. She planned. She saved $1, then $2, then $3 a day. Some days she cried from exhaustion, but still took the next step. A year later, she opened her bakery. She said, "I stopped waiting for motivation. I learned to depend on will." Her strength came not from emotion, but from consistency. The Rabbi teaches, act first. Inspiration follows as a reward. Most people wait for the fire to burn before they move, but the wise know the fire comes after movement. Real growth happens in the moments when you feel nothing and choose to continue. Strong-willed people aren't emotionless. They simply don't let their emotions dictate their destiny. They feel fear, doubt, insecurity, sadness, but still act. They act because they respect their future more than their mood. They act because they value commitment over comfort. They act because they know consistency creates miracles. The Rabbi says, your destiny does not respond to how you feel. It responds to what you do. And those who dare to act without relying on emotion become unstoppable. If you've ever moved forward on a day you didn't feel like it, write in the comments, I act. Because that action is sacred. 7. You don't need anyone to understand you. Everything you seek is within. After discipline shapes your path, you reach the final and most liberating stage of rising alone. The realization that no one needs to understand you. Not your family, not your friends, not your partner, not society, not the world. Just you. There comes a moment when you look around and realize you've done everything right. You've grown quietly. You've healed deeply. You've stood alone. You've walked through darkness. You've risen after every fall. You've acted with discipline even without motivation, and still, no one truly understands the depth of your journey. At first, this hurts. You want someone to see your path, to appreciate your transformation, to validate your struggle. But the Millionaire Rabbi teaches, no one can fully understand you because only you have lived your soul's exact journey. Only you know the battles you fought in silence. Only you know the fears you conquered alone. Only you know the nights you held yourself together. Only you know the promises you made to yourself. Only you know the storms inside your heart. To expect someone else to understand all that is to ask them to live your entire life. It is impossible. And when this truth settles inside you, you feel a strange peace. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your choices. You stop shrinking your spirit to fit others' expectations. You stop waiting for approval. You stop seeking understanding. And your soul, finally, breathes. Because the Rabbi teaches, you do not need understanding, you need alignment. The Rabbi shares a story of a young painter who lost her creative spark. For years she painted what markets liked, what critics praised, what galleries wanted, but her soul felt empty. So she did something radical. She left the city. She rented a small home by a quiet lake. She turned off her phone, she disconnected from the world, and she painted, not to impress, not to sell, not to be understood, but to listen to her soul. When she returned, her art had come alive, raw, honest, powerful. A gallery owner saw one painting and said, "This is different. Where did this come from?" She replied, "When I stopped trying to be seen, I finally began to see myself." That is the paradox of the spiritual journey. When you no longer need understanding, you become understood by those who are truly meant for you. When you no longer need recognition, your presence gains gravity. When you no longer seek completion from others, you discover you were never incomplete. The Rabbi teaches, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. When you stop asking the world, who am I? And start asking your soul, what do you need? Your entire life shifts. No one will ever fully understand the depth of your heart. And that is okay. Because your journey is not a public performance. It is a sacred unfolding. Understanding is optional. Alignment is everything. If you feel this truth, write in the comments, "I remember who I am." Conclusion: the final ascent. A person who can rise when no one is there is not someone who feels no pain. It is someone who has transformed pain into wisdom. They turn loneliness into a teacher, silence into fuel, failure into fire, discipline into progress, misunderstanding into inner peace. They do not live to be seen, they live to be true. When the world goes silent, they listen within. When no one believes, they stand firm. When no one claps, they still rise. From that place, the place that once felt empty, another kind of strength is born. A strength that needs no witnesses, a strength that cannot be taken away, a strength that comes from a soul aligned with itself. This journey was never about becoming invincible. It was about becoming authentic, honest with your fears, faithful to your path, aligned with your own light. The Millionaire Rabbi teaches, when you stop waiting to be saved, you realize you were strong all along. If this message awakened something within you, share it. Someone else may need this reminder that they too can rise alone. And don't forget to subscribe, because your journey has only just begun. The journey of becoming yourself. Steady, clear, and free, even when no one stands beside you.